So, Sam, what are we doing today with this spell?
This is a spell for ancestor work, for honoring our ancestors, for connecting to them. You can really use this spell in kind of a bunch of different ways. If you just want this to be, a nice little way to honor them and say thank you, that's perfectly fine. If you want to use this time to call them forward and to try to do, maybe an active meditation or do some divination or look for some guidance, this is a really good spell to kind of get the door open to connecting and working with them.
And I notice a lot of ancestor related workings uses skulls. So, can you tell us about that? Is it because it's symbolic? What is the deal with skulls and ancestor work?
Kind of one of the easiest universally recognizable symbols of the dead and death. And, it's right off the bat, most people are going to consider Dia de los Muertos, but there are, holidays all over the world that have this kind of concept of taking things that are commonly kind of unsettling, like skulls and skeletons, and making them a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more accessible through the lens of like connecting to our ancestors. There's a weird kind of confrontation of laughing in the face of all of it because humans, we're biologically wired to not think about it. It's not something that normally we willingly step into. So taking effort to make things that normally are really uncomfortable now a symbol of our dead loved ones and not just a random dead scary guy that's here to hurt us, but like, great grandma Joe, it kind of makes it a little bit less eerie and unsettling. It's kind of an easy way to connect yourself to the energy of death and everything that's moving past it. And this is just a nice blank slate. Now, if this is a little too much for you, that's fair. Some people, their fear of death is really big and really paralyzing. So if this is a little too much for you, that's okay. You can go on ahead and get like a normal pillar candle. You can go and get a candle that smells reminiscent of things that you would associate with your ancestors. There's other ways to kind of go about it to soften the blow if this is a little too much for you right now. But what I'm going to do here, since this is a representation of my ancestors, I'm using an incense stick because honestly, it carves in beautifully as long as you have like a good sturdy little bit of wood on the end. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to carve my last name. And I'm also going to carve my mother's maiden name because, we want both sides of the family in this moment, unless you don't. You know your family. If they maybe shouldn't all be in the same room together, don't put them in the same room together. That's totally fine. You can go ahead and do this spell twice with, mom's side and then do it again with dad's side. If you don't want to be that specific, if you want to just open the door to kind of anybody and everybody that would constitute as an ancestor, just go on ahead and pop ancestors. That's also perfectly fine. Now, I want to caution against opening this idea up to everybody because this is not beginner friendly. But an ancestor calling spell is a really beautiful spell to incorporate your own DNA into the situation, whether that's a little bit of hair, a little bit of blood. Please don't go like slicing your finger open with a knife. Please go to CVS and get one of those little diabetic hole punchy thingies. And then just go ahead and use that. Like, we don't need to be doing it like it's the movies and slicing our palm open. That's how you get infected. So, you can do that. You can use your spit. There's a bunch of different ways to kind of go about it. Now, the spell does come, at least our kits, come with these little stickers. You can pop it on the candle. What I like to do is pop it right on the bottom of my working and let that work as a base, let that work as a grounding root network for my candle. Now, we also went ahead and gave you some bay leaves, which I'm going to go ahead and use. Actually,
I noticed too with some ancestor workings that there's a lot of intention that has to go behind it because there's probably some ancestors that you do want to connect with, but then there's maybe some that you don't, right?
There's kind of an understanding that we have two different kinds of ancestors looking out for us. There are our ascended ancestors, and most people can agree that you're looking at like 10 generations back. But ascended ancestors are people who have been gone for quite some time. And then you have then there's like your remaining ancestors. Now, there's no difference really in the sense of like Who are you calling? The big difference is that your ascended ancestors have had a lot of time to be dead and a lot of time to get over whatever stupid bullshit they had. Whereas, your ancestors who are not there yet might still be caught up on certain things. And I think it's really important to, without it becoming a painful or a sad exercise, to be really, really honest about who you're calling forward and if they're probably going to be okay with it or not. I have some ancestors, I probably shouldn't call them forth for witchcraft. They would think I should be hung. Like, I should maybe not bother and upset those people. Like, because are they here to look out for me? They're my ancestors, so I'm pretty sure. But would they want to help me in something that in their life they would have thought was the devil's work? Absolutely not. No, not even a little bit. So, navigate your ancestors carefully, because if anything, even if you had the nicest family who never did anybody any kind of wrong ever, which you didn't, nobody did, but even if you did, there's a lot of trauma there, Working with your ancestors is opening doors to so much wisdom and love and family and interconnectedness, and also a lot of generational trauma and curses. You're opening the door to acknowledge those things. Benefiting from your ancestors also means going through the process of healing yourself and them. I have done that before. And like I said, go at your own pace, go at your own rhythm that feels comfortable. But I think the most important thing is that you just be really honest about the people that are probably going to show up if you call your ancestors forward, and if you're not limiting it to just your ascended ancestors. Obviously, your ascended ancestors, they do not need your help. You need their help. Like, it's not the other way around. But, again, Great Grandma Jo, who maybe didn't have the best attitude towards certain people, she's probably still working on that. So, give her the time and space to keep working on that. Or, take responsibility for your family's generational curses and get to healing. Because I guarantee when you sit and start connecting with your ancestors, sometimes you'll hear stuff that you have heard before. You'll be like, oh, that's where grandma got that from. I've heard grandma say that exact same thing. And you'll be like, okay, I can see the root of the issue and I can start kind of working forward. So like I said, ancestor work is beautiful and rewarding and difficult. And it is kind of shadow work as well, in a way. And even if you're not going to go through the heavy work of healing and unpacking and breaking curses, which you'll get there. But even if you're not ready to do that yet, you should still be honoring and taking the time to acknowledge your ancestors, even the ones that still have growing to do. Because that's the whole point. This is not like a call out situation. This is a call in, type of deal. So when it comes to this, come on, don't fight me. How much you want to bet that's my grandfather? There we go. Man always had to give people shit. My grandmother went to readings. She went to psychic mediums for decades after he passed away. He never came through, which made sense. He was a man of few words in life. He was going to be a man of few words in death. But you know who would come through all the time? Her daughter-in-law's mom. Yeah, she was pissed about that. She was like, I don't want to talk to Peggy. I'm trying to talk to my husband. My grandma Peggy was like, too bad.
I think it's also probably really comforting for people to do a working like this.
Especially if you've had people pass away relatively recently. It's a really good way to just take some time. And even if you don't connect with them, I really think ancestor work at its core is meant to be selfless. It's done with the act of recognition and acknowledging and respecting the people that came before us. And I think, which is why especially I say, even with their bullshit, taking the time, because you can't tell me that's not what we all want somebody to do for us. I hope that even despite whatever my bullshit tendencies are, I hope after I've been gone for 100 years, my great, whatever, who doesn't even know me or that I existed unless she's fucking around on Ancestry, is going to take some time to be like, here you go. You were here and you mattered. And I care about you and I acknowledge and respect. She's probably still cleaning up shit that I might have accidentally put into the family, but she's also benefiting from things that I probably put into the family. And I really hope that one day, my future generations are going to take the time to be like, thank you, and kind of doing this in return. Ancestor work is selfless, which is why sometimes, it's uncomfortable. Sometimes you're going to walk away feeling weird, and other times you're going to walk away feeling so healed and so fulfilled. But again, the point is that working and connecting with the dead is something that you can benefit so much out of personally. but it's something that you have to walk into selflessly. And then you will watch yourself start benefiting left, right, and center out of it. So what we're going to do here, I've made this little combo. Now, what went into this was, well, the bay leaves, the marigold, and the mugwort. Now, bay leaf is protective, especially for spirits. So what I want to do is create a space where my ancestors are well protected. Mugwort facilitates communication. It facilitates openness. It will hopefully make any conversations we may have a little bit easier. It should thin the veil between us. And the marigold works as a path. It works as a road. It works as a torch. It is a way to kind of call and bring my ancestors forward, which is why, as you can see, I didn't fully close off my circle. I made a little pathway for them to kind of make their way in here. Now, the 2 incenses burning at the front, those are offerings. Those are not meant to cleanse the space. Those are meant for my ancestors. It is very, very common whenever you're going to do ancestor work or whenever you're honoring them to bring offerings. Now, we're going to pack you with some. The candle counts as an offering. The fire counts as an offering. The incense counts as an offering. But feel free to go more into that. Water, super common. You're never going to upset somebody by giving them a glass of water. Water is a really popular offering. If you want to get really particular, go ahead and pop those in the area as well. You could, in a lot of ways, make something similar to an ofrenda that like they make during like Dia de los Muertos. You could absolutely do something similar to that with photos and things that they love and cute little trinkets and stuff for them to have. Now, once all of this is going, get over here. With the paper that we give all of you, this is going to have a list of all of your ingredients, a quick little blurb on like ancestor magic, what to expect and how it works and why it's important. And then over here on the back of the page, there is a little bit of an incantation. You can absolutely go out of your way to say it. I like to do it because it's usually a nice way to fully open the door, and it's that one last invitation because, you know, some people can't hear even after they're dead. So like this is a good way to try to be like, hello, and like start pulling everybody in while doing it really respectfully in a way that kind of honors everyone. Now, incantations can be said in your head. They can be said under your breath. They can be said at the top of your lungs. When it comes to this, feel free to edit this any way you want. For example, the first line of this is honored ancestors. You can use that. You could call out your ancestors by name if there's some that you want to speak to specifically. It's entirely up to you. But we're going to start by welcoming them. We're going to start by calling them forth with honored ancestors. May the incense call you from beyond the veil. It works like a road. May the marigolds guide you to me. May the bay protect you. May the mugwort make our connection across space and time easier. May these offerings of clean water entice you to my side. I ask to share the space with you, to feel and honor your presence, and to open myself up to any guidance and advice you may have for me. Feel free to add, feel free to take away, feel free to list more offerings as you go on about and give them. And now once we're here in this space, there are a million different ways you could move forward. If you smell somebody's perfume, or if you start getting, messages or downloads or whatever, start kind of sitting in the energy as it kind of comes in. Feel free to give more offerings if you want to. Now's a really good time to do it, especially because they'd probably start showing up right about now. Now is a really good time to start divining, whether that's with tarot cards, ask questions with a pendulum, throw stones, throw bones, throw charms, whatever you feel like doing. Go ahead and free write, open journal, channel, record yourself, whatever you want to do, or just sit and meditate. But this is a really beautiful situation to both honor your ancestors and open yourself up to any wisdom, guidance, intuition, advice that they feel like giving you. Now, the most important thing here is be respectful. Your ancestors are not always going to tell you shit that you want to hear. Okay, don't be rude about it. This is why I always warn people, ancestor work is a little bit like shadow work. Sometimes it's hard. It's not always going to be, wow, I walk out feeling so much lighter. Sometimes you do ancestor work and you're like, wow, I'm really aware of this pattern in my family that we need to heal and that we need to work on. So make sure you're going in the right space and that you're ready to get stuff done and that you're ready to either be welcomed by all of your extended family and probably tackle some heavy themes. This is a great place to get started, whether it's honoring, connecting, opening yourself up magically, a million different ways forward from here. But what I like to do is I like to let this candle burn all the way down. It should take a few hours. So make sure you have the time to let this go all the way down. If you want to just use this as a way to honor your ancestors, it is completely okay to snuff the candle and relight it whenever you want to re-welcome them, whenever you want to honor them again, whenever you want to pay a little bit more attention to them. But if you're sitting and doing a proper working, let's say I was doing another spell over here, and I did this spell to summon my ancestors and honor them so that I could then ask them to help me do this spell, I would keep this candle running for as long as I was doing the other working. But after that, that's being specific. It's entirely up to you. Everything that you saw me work with is going to come inside one of these boxes, along with a sticker. And like I said, all of this paperwork with everything you need to know how to do the spell yourself. And obviously, I'm right here. You can follow along with me if you want to, really have somebody with you throughout the entire process. And as always, you can always reach out to us on Instagram with any questions. Eventually, somebody will put the phone in my hand. I will answer.